Welcome to this version of the database team weekly meeting. It is January 19th. Couple topics right off the top, won't take too much time. So it's OKR time. I've put the links to current OKR and draft for upcoming OKR. Take a look at your comments. And then jump right into the InfraDev review for any incoming issues. And you know what, I actually did this yesterday. There were no new issues yesterday. I haven't checked yet this morning. Doesn't look like there's any new issues this morning. Jose, is there anything that you are waiting on from us?
No, I just would like to review some issues. One of them I added some marginalia with Yanis to have a look. We can proceed with the teams and so on, because I remember we did some raw analysis with Nikolai and we collected some samples. This is one thing. And the other issues, I think they're assigned to other teams, but we didn't have any update on them, no? But there is no new issues at the end.
Okay. Do you have the link to the issues you wanted to review?
Yeah, let me show you. Wait.
I have added all the remaining InfraDev issues in our validation board so that we can quickly find them and check them. If so, maybe this could help.
I saw, for example, let me share this one with everyone. This one, because I saw that we're asking for some update there for a while with the developer teams, and I don't mean that is with the database team here, but let me add to the agenda.
Got it. Looks like it's been assigned group access. They are putting in this milestone. That's all the content I have there. It looks like it's been assigned to the group. Was there something specific you were looking for here, Jose, other than just progress on this one?
Yeah, it was this one of them. The other one, I did a comment to you a few minutes ago, Yanis, that I collected for the namespace query, if I'm not wrong, some marginalia there. If you can have a look just for us to iterate, would be awesome, okay? Thank you. That's it from my side, Craig. Thank you.
Okay. Is this one still like on fire, or is it okay that it's scheduled for 13.9? Like, do we need to get some more urgency with the access team and Liam to try and get it pushed to the top of the priority queue?
Look, until Friday, my last analysis I did on load, we still had a spike of 80%. That is dangerous.
Yeah.
So we need something, and we already had applied the change to reduce the select ones. That is great. Yesterday was public holiday in US, so I understand that we had lower traffic. Today, I think the next hour I will see if there is some spike, but it will be great if you can do some work around in a couple of issues or these heavy queries that we had that was like the top consumers in total time for us to try to mitigate the whole solution, the whole problem itself, no?
Yep. Okay.
Can I ask a question to Jose? So, Jose, the master on GitLab.com has changed. Is this related to an incident or?
Yes, unfortunately. Sunday, we had like a maintenance to expand the disks because we were running out of space. We have our database is around 9 terabytes and we're in a disk of 10. And what happened? Unfortunately, one of our colleagues started a snapshot from the disks, trying to be safe, a survey mentality. And unfortunately, this triggered a failover. Like, we are still investigating this, but this was the reason that we had a failover, that we changed the primary. It was not expected, okay?
Did the disk upgrade go through though? Do we have more space
Yes.
now?
We have 16 terabytes, so we are good in that space, in that front.
Well, it's not good that we're using that much space, but it's good that we've got more space, more overhead. Okay. Yeah, I'll chat with our product folks about getting some prioritization on this issue later on.
Thanks, Craig.
Yep. All right. If there's nothing else, Jose, you can probably drop off.
Okay. Thanks. Bye, everyone.
Bye. All right. So I'm just taking a look at our board. We still have a bunch in 13.8. I don't know if this has been updated. Let me refresh real quick. So Andres obviously out, so those will carry over. If he doesn't move them, the bot will carry them over. Patrick, you have a couple that are in here, so properly sync data.
Quick question. Are they also all on the build board?
Yeah, they are. So yeah, everything is also in the billboard. And I have ordered the billboard by, so there are the 13.8 are on top, then there are the 13.9, and then everything else.
Oops, sorry. This one needs to move up then. So this one's 13.8. Okay, is that the preference then to go with the billboard?
I don't know.
I'd like to.
I would ask everyone.
But that's my preference only.
Yeah. I think this is part of the growing pain of changing process, which I'm totally on board for. It's the say-do ratio clash that we're going to have where we're coming up against the end of a milestone and things are still in that milestone, figuring out what we need to do with those. So I'm fine with going this route. I think there's another one.
Yeah, my suggestion, what I usually do with the geo team is we just start at the right and see what's done. And then we sort of make our way to the left and see if there are things that need special attention, depending on where they actually are. And then you can, that's what we do. The advantage that has is that you see immediately what actually got done last week, right? Because it's in the closed column. And then you can kind of clean out afterwards and remove the database active label, and then they disappear into the abyss of the closed issues.
Interesting. Okay.
Should we try it?
Yep. You know what? Does somebody else, Fabian, you want to drive so you can walk us through it?
I can do it. Yeah. Oh, goodness. Cool. Let me quickly refresh. Okay. Can everybody see the board? Cool. Okay, item number 1, 13.9 planning. I think that what got done. You recorded the kickoff call as well, Yannis. That's right.
Yes.
Then the next one here.
Yeah, that's in production.
That's in production.
Yep.
Anything specific to talk about here? No.
It's in production. We have already seen the queries per second drop, and that was a big thing.
What I usually do, then I can also do it later on, is I unlabel them. So they will no longer actually appear here in the column. And that way you prevent
that one already.
Okay, perfect. Okay. CI check for MR. Patrick.
Yeah, that one's done. Yeah, there was a follow-up created, but the work captured here is finished.
Cool. Great work. And then the trigger database migrations from CI. That's from I think this is the MVC, correct?
Yes.
Okay. So started to work on this. Is this closed because the MVC is essentially like the exploration is done?
Yeah, we have a proof of concept, and now we have to also maybe add a couple of new issues for the next steps. This is
Okay.
one thing pending.
I'll just make a comment here. Cool. So nothing here in the staging area. So Grafana annotations for re-indexing.
Yeah, those have been released on staging. We have to run one more re-indexing to check them, and then Andreas is going to add to add them also on production.
Cool. So that's going well. In review. So this one here.
Yeah, there's just been a lot of back and forth. It's pretty, I guess, has a high impact if something goes wrong there. So we're still kind of discussing some plans that maybe things that we would change there, but there's nothing holding it up.
Okay. And so this was labeled to be released in 13.8. I think that ship has sailed, correct?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. I'll just update the milestone here then.
And should we add a deliverable for this?
Sounds good. I guess, Patrick, you're confident that this can be released in the next milestone, given that it's in review right now, or is there some uncertainty?
No, I think it should be able to go in this milestone.
Cool. Great. Blueprint for database testing. I think this is the large document that was put together. So I think there's nothing much to say other than people have made comments, and I'm sure Andreas will address this when he's back. Okay. Reset column information required in data migration models. So this is not assigned to anyone. What's happening here? Everything seems to be merged. 6 months ago. Not quite sure what this is.
Can you scroll down? I'm not so sure
Sure.
either. Why is it there? This is a backlog item that maybe it's there by mistake. It should be closed. I will check it afterwards.
Yeah.
Maybe we added it while testing. We have backlogged it. So just, yeah, I will address it. Most probably we will have to remove the database active.
Yeah, I think that's good. Okay, in dev, the big int conversion.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, this one is the one where everything is ready, but we are going to need 6 months for it to run. So we have to run some tests or figure out a way to have better statistics. Most probably we will have to split the MRs and add one more merge request there so that we can gather statistics and start it off. Most probably this should not take 6 months, it should take 2 months, but yeah, we have to check.
Okay, but this is actually in dev. It just requires more MRs to be raised rather than in review. Okay.
Yeah, we are actually discussing it.
Do you need help on that, Giannis? Considering you're splitting your time about 4 different ways now.
Yeah, I will need help, and most probably I will need help for the follow-up to this one. That will we will need to add migration helpers for finalizing. So maybe I will continue with this one, and then I have already asked whether Patrick or Andreas can help me with the follow-up.
Okay. This is, by the way, also what we do in the scheduling call in Geo. We often, when these discussions happen, we just add them here as comments into the issue, so they don't get lost. Exit.
I was gonna say, based on urgency and timing, like this should be the top thing that either Pat or Andreas jump on as they have free time and are able to help.
Yeah, because there is a hard cliff, right? When it needs to be done.
Yeah, and coordinating, like if we're looking at 6 months on the worst case and we're guessing 2 months on the best case, the sooner we can get some help in there to start moving that forward, the better.
Yeah, I think that's a good call. Okay, onwards. Index renaming.
Yeah, this one I think Andreas had mostly complete. There was one or two minor issues pointed out during the review that he just hasn't had time to address yet, but it should be good.
So is this in review or in dev?
It was, yeah, and I think maybe he put it back in dev because he had to make a few changes, but obviously it slipped 13.8, but it should go in 13.9.
Okay.
And so, yeah, deliverable. This is the one you were reviewing, Patrick.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Right.
I remember you had a follow-up there, yeah.
Okay, then ready for development. So my understanding for ready for development is that no work has been done on those yet, right? It's just people will pick up this work. So I'll open up like the top 3 here. Properly sync data in rename column concurrently helper. Was that something that we intended to deliver? That was a deliverable for 13.9?
For 13.8? No, so it was added in the milestone last milestone. There was a review that I had, and I determined that there was a bug with how the helper works currently. And then, so it's holding up this merge request that's sitting there. And so I thought it would be relatively simple to fix it and get it in. Turns out it's not going to be as simple as I thought, and basically have to rewrite or create a new helper. It's going to be more involved, but it still needs to be done because there's a merge request waiting for it, basically, to be fixed. So yeah, it didn't make it in 13.8, but I think it's still something we need to prioritize now, since the one we have currently is actively broken.
Okay. Cannot restore to Helm installed version. I don't know what this is about.
It's like a community contribution there based on the author. And it's a bug.
It's a bug. Okay. Didn't make it in 13.8. 13.9 should be fine for those things. Oh, nice. Okay, so this is another. Okay. Okay, so looking at those here, the next ones, I want, maybe we can go on through them high level. Are those the deliverable items for 13.8 in here?
13.9. So starting
13.9.
Yeah, from determining the first 2 are in order to finish with the audit events partitioning. It's just running some tests and then dropping the table. And they should be deliverables. This is the important one that will allow us to finalize the migration on events table. This will be a top priority from my perspective. And then there are operational issues.
The rest are all, let's look at quickly at the Epic view here. So this is like security review indexes on CI builds. Okay, this year was the focus for this release, right? For 13.9, these items here.
Yeah,
correct.
Those two together with whatever we're going to add for database testing.
Okay, and then here's like audit events. Is that still a priority for 13.9?
This will be fast and it will allow us to finish with that Epic.
Okay. And these here are all of the operational, the tail end of things, is that correct?
Yeah.
Okay. So my concern is, I think we should quickly go back to the milestone board. I just want to make sure we've accounted for everything, and this is the the transition bit, as Craig pointed out earlier. Are all of those items in here the same as in our milestone board, which I need to pull up?
Yeah, I made sure that they are, and I had to manually order them in the same way. This is a problem. So you have to, you order them in one board and then you have to go order them also in the other one. But okay, it's not like we have 2,000 issues.
Yeah. Okay, so you've, like, all of these milestones are like all of these items here in 13.9 are now on the build board.
Yeah, everything is ready for development and following the same order.
Okay, cool. So a couple of observations just from my experience before we talk about these things here. There's a long list, right? It'll take us a while to actually like go through this. So I'll leave it, like, maybe we can do this async, but these should be ordered in rough priority. I personally prefer having like fewer than 10 items in here, because I think everything else is a little bit of a lie, right? As in, we're going to, like, there's tons of stuff that's ready for development, and that's true. But we can sort of refill the pile, continuously over the milestone, rather than having them all in here, because it gets a little bit unclear what to actually pick and choose, right? So that's sort of my observation, and then that makes it a bit easier also to keep track. But that's a minor adjustment. And then my question is, what about these items here, the open ones? How did they happen?
The second one down has been in a state of start and stop for a while based on bandwidth, right? So that's probably why that's why that's in open.
Okay. And this one here?
This is I think that we would like to work on at some point, but it's
I think there's a similar story on that one.
Yeah, it's more
of this one here.
So, yeah, assume that this is a backlog.
The last one is a follow-up to the one that we just closed recently. So we added this CI migration job, and we just have to basically flip it to be on, essentially.
Okay, so that's a follow-on to something that we did recently.
Right.
Yeah, so that may actually make...
Yeah, sorry.
That may make sense to then actually get into ready for development, so we can close these things out. I think otherwise that's just a thought.
So a question I have there is if we want to, whether we want to keep the ready for development short and keep everything else also ordered on the open list or not.
So my, again, this is a discussion, but this is what I do. It's the ready for development should be ideally stack ranked by priority. The things that are most important are at the top. And then let's say Patrick picks something, picks the next thing. And I mean, for you, this would be this one here, right? And Yanis, if you had capacity, which you don't, right? The next thing you would pick is the partitioning audit, right?
Exactly.
So the lower things here are, the less the priority, right? That's kind of how it is. As I said, I like to not keep too many in here because otherwise it's a little bit like coffee grinds in a cup, right? You dump things to the bottom and they never quite make it. And so I think the activity here is to make sure that every week you reevaluate if these are still the most important things to actually work on, right? And not pull in too many new things just because the capacity of the team is limited. I usually, and this is preference, I hide the open column because I'd like to make a sort of, as the PM, I like to pull in the things actively either during the call and say, hey, we're working on this epic, right? And we've completed the 3 items here on audit table. There are 2 more, right? Which I'm adding now. I don't keep the entire backlog in the open column. And this is how I keep the board relatively clean, because for me, the importance in this board is that it is manageable to actually talk about it within, let's say, 20 minutes or so, or 15 minutes, rather than having to go through tons of issues that you will not complete within the next few weeks. Whereas if we didn't do anything, I ask myself, it's when will we actually get to this item, right? Is it going to be the end of 13.9, right? Or is it going to be in a week? And so this is sort of my thought process.
Yeah, and a comment I added in our agenda. So for example, there I try to order at least the ONSEM 13.9 before we added the 3 on top, is whether we should remove some of the bottom ones. And this is a discussion we can have all together. So for example, those fixed indexes, fixed check constraints, there could be like a bug in the open column ready to be added ready for development. I don't think that we can make them in 13.9. I don't know if everyone else agrees. So yeah.
And I think the database guides one can move out too.
Yeah, the database guides, I had it there as a quick reference of from there below we can remove everything. This is my proposal.
These 4 items can essentially be removed.
That's my proposal at least, but this is for everyone to agree.
They're not critical.
Okay.
So, yeah, but there is one problem there. Because we don't have them in epics, how are we going to track them? Don't we want to move them just in the open column?
We actually want to move them into the planning board.
Okay.
Right. That's maybe I should have done that otherwise.
Yeah. You unlabeled.
Yeah. You. It happens. Removed all labels.
I don't quite understand why I can't submit them, but I will.
All your powers have been revoked. That's all.
Yeah, it's like Craig was just like, I'm not having this anymore. No. Yeah, well, for technical reasons, I failed to do this, but we can still agree on, we can move these back into the planning board, right? And then decide when to actually do them. And I would argue these 4 here can be the same, except for maybe the one that Patrick pointed out, because he said that is a follow-up to something that was done recently. So it may make sense to do it as well.
Okay. Yeah.
I don't think we have a database planning label. I think that's the problem. Is it validation? Is that what you were looking for?
Yes.
I was just trying to, yeah, that's why it was failing.
But it's interesting because this is a clear
missing label is the
and
the error goes wrong.
Yes.
And we should add them as in the scheduling, with
Yes.
the scheduling level, okay?
Well, I think my network connection here is clearly somehow borked.
I can do it. I have opened them. And add them as, and also add the validation, the scheduling, workflow scheduling.
So actually, just as a little, like, this is what I have for Geo, right? I have all of my short codes for labels set up. So okay, like this. Okay, that seemed to have worked. And this one as well. Okay, and then these three here, I'm also going to move out. Because this is also something that we can do async, right? To like plan what's the next most important thing. Okay. All right. Okay, so my question, should I move this one over to ready for development at the bottom?
Yeah, I think that makes sense. I think it's something we want to, it's not like something we need to look at immediately, but it's something we should not forget to do soon. Otherwise the previous work was not really worth it.
Okay. Okay, and then my question is, in terms of priorities, if, you know, like maybe for you, Patrick, you would probably pick up this work here next, right? The sync data.
Right.
And then after that, the most,
sorry, I wasn't looking.
This one here, properly synced data. Following this, the most important next thing would be the partitioning audit table. Is that the correct order of things?
No, I think it's the events table, right? And the sorry, the primary key overflow. So maybe, Giannis, do you need to be unassigned from that so that we can get some help? Or is this just kind of an anomaly of our workflow when people are working together?
So for the migration helpers on the left, I'm unassigned. So hopefully Patrick can pick it. On the other one, the migration, I will try to follow up with that. And if I cannot, I will politely ask Pat or someone, Pat, to help me.
Okay. Okay. But that's kind of it. I'm going to like stop sharing now. My laptop is about to explode. But so the idea here is that, you know, usually this is a bit faster. We do this for the first time, right? But that you just go to the build board and then pick the next thing from the, like, what's in the ready for development column and like start working on that. And the discussion to have for all of us, but mainly, you know, for Giannis going forward, is to make sure that the items for the prioritized epics that we want to work on, so the main theme for this milestone, are ranked high enough so that they actually get delivered. And a risk here is always that you fill your workflow, like your ready for development stuff, so full, you know, that the bottom is never actually going to be worked on because they, you know, they don't, they never make it a priority. And that's something we have in Geo pretty frequently, and I just remove them. Because otherwise you're essentially signaling we are going to get to it. But if you've tried to get to it for like 2 months and it hasn't happened, you know, it doesn't really reflect reality. And then in terms of like scheduling the next thing, we would just look at the epic for the focus, this milestone, and suggest additional items for this. That's the idea. And then you just go through it and optimize how fast it can go from ready for development into production.
So when does the triage portion take place, right? Because we're going to be different than feature teams in that we get a fairly high volume of issues coming in that need to be looked at, and it's going to shuffle our priorities on a weekly basis, right? So how do we want to incorporate that step into our processes?
So my initial suggestion, and I don't have that much experience with it, is that we do this in Geo now. Either there's a rotation for triaging, so somebody is going to do all of the triaging for a milestone, so that you know, you can ignore it, you know, for a month, and somebody just does it. But I think given that you have a high volume, right, I think what needs to happen is by the time you have the database meeting where you're going to walk the board, right, the prioritized and triaged issues should be ready, right? You need to be able to say, hey, we have these 3 things that came in, you know, maybe put them in the open column and say, like, these are high priority things, we need to do them, right? But if they that's kind of probably the best we can do. Honestly, you know, if this is a little bit established, right, you can also pull them into ready for development immediately after triaging, right? Because if it's understood that the most important thing is at the top of ready for development, and Janis is on triaging duty and finds a P1 S1 tomorrow, right, then you just pull it into ready for development, and that's the next thing that people are going to do, which is essentially the definition of that severity, right? You drop stuff, you pick it pretty much immediately. That's also a possibility. But it may be worth just having a person doing it sort of on rotation, because otherwise it may be time consuming for people, but I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, thinking about the rotation, we effectively would just have Pat and Andreas at that point in time, right? Because I don't know that we want to throw yet another thing on Janis's lap if we're trying to get him onboarded to being a product manager. But don't let me speak for you, Janis, if you think you have bandwidth for that.
I think that maybe it should be worthwhile for me to do at least. Let me start doing those, and we can see how this goes.
Okay. So Pat and Janis, do you want to go on a triage rotation and just have someone take point for the week, and then we can hand it off the next week? You want to try that for now?
Yeah, sure. I mean, that
Okay.
I think that makes sense rather than, you know, not knowing who's going to look into it.
Yeah. All right. Any volunteers for this week?
I can do it.
All right.
Okay. Yeah.
If you want to make sure that the wrong things are scheduled with 100% certainty, just assign me, right?
That's a good way to get people to talk about it.
Yeah, it's true.
All right. Then we can put that in the agenda too. Like whoever was on triage last week, bring up any items or make sure they're represented on the board and hand off to the next person. So we can just go in alphabetical order then to make it simple. So Pat, Janis, and Andreas. So Janis will have next week. Andreas has a week after that. It makes it easier to figure out.
Yeah. Cool. No, and also again, like the mindset I'm trying to sort of get across is just look at the billboard, or that should always reflect the reality of what is most important. And that's the beauty of it, right? At some point you can, you know, during the week, if you need something to do, you should be able to just go there and pick.
Yep. Okay.
I'm already excited for next week.
Cool. That's it for topics on the agenda. Anything else folks wanted to cover today? All right.
I don't think so.
Well, have a good Tuesday, everybody.
Thank you. Bye.